구약시대에 하나님의 백성 이스라엘과 끊임없이 대놓고 싸웠던 네피림 거인족이 신약시대에는 하나님의 백성 그리스도인과 그동안 숨어서 은밀히 싸우고 있었으나 이제 예수님이 재림하시기 직전인 이 시대에는 아예 밝히 드러나며 클라이맥스에 도달하게 되는 것일까요? 교회들로 하여금 하나님 말씀을 떠나서 세속화되게 하며 성령의 역사를 거부하고 막음으로 영적으로 죽게 만들거나 심지어는 악령의 소굴로까지 끝까지 타락시키는 조직적이고 치밀한 어두움의 기획을 문화적으로, 학문적으로, 사회적으로, 정치적으로 등등 전방위적으로 교회들을 옥죄이며 사방에서 은밀한 가운데 숨어서 실행하는 고도의 두뇌들이 실제론 현재 숨어있는 고대기원의 네피림 거인족들일 수도 있을까요? 그들이 마지막 때 과연 자신들의 정체를 드러낼까요? 저는 그렇다고 믿습니다. 다니엘서 2장 22절 말씀 그는 깊고 은밀한 일을 나타내시고 어두운 데 있는 것을 아시며 또 빛이 그와 함께 있도다와 마태복음 10장 26절 말씀 그런즉 저희를 두려워하지 말라 감추인 것이 드러나지 않을 것이 없고 숨은 것이 알려지지 않을 것이 없느니라이. 이런 측면에서도 성취되는 것으로 저는 믿고 있습니다. 다음은 초교파 목회자의 아들로 어릴 때부터 이 주제를 추적해온 티모시 알베리노의 대담 영상입니다.
And he flew the body of the giant to a base in Germany. And then he said he heard through the grapevine from some of his other colleagues that the giant ultimately made its way to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. That was the final destination for the Kandahar giant. Now, our pilot, unbeknownst to us, had decided to withhold some information in his story, some key details. And he withheld these details so that he could authenticate or verify anyone else's story should they come forward. And I don't even know if L.A. Marsuli knows this, but when L.A. came forward, and by the way, I think the Kandahar giant story that I just related, that we were told from our pilot, I believe it was either 2003 or 2005. I can't remember which year. It was 2003. I want to say it was 2003, but I can't remember if it was 2003 or 2005. He had heard an interview with or watched LA's documentary in which he interviews that gentleman that you referenced, who was a part of the platoon or had something to do with the Kandahar giant incident, and he called Steve Quayle. Our pilot called Steve, and he was very excited, and he said, "That guy's telling the truth. I held back these details so that should anyone else come forward, I can tell you if they were authentic." And he said, "This guy's authentic. He knows what he's saying. He knows about the giant, and obviously either he's had personal experience that with the giant, with the incident, or he has firsthand knowledge of it that is accurate." So I believe that those two incidents are the same incident, the one that we reported and the one that LA reported. I believe they're the same incident. I don't believe we're talking about two different giants. I think we're talking about the same one. And I've encountered some military personnel over the years, in some cases some high-ranking guys, who have, let's say, indirectly let me know that the Kandahar giant is 100% real, that incident did occur. So I absolutely believe that let me make a logical leap here. I absolutely believe that, a logical inference rather, not a logical leap, an inference, that there are living giants in Afghanistan, at least in Afghanistan, and that they are inhabiting the bowels of the earth, that they are moving and living in these caves. This giant could not have been solitary. I mean, it could have been solitary in living perhaps by himself in the cave, but he can't be the only one. There have to be more.
This picture of a giant in a cave breaking the internet was captured when chaos broke out in Mexico, as some locals claim they saw a giant living in a mountain cave. Even a video was posted online showing the human-like figure sitting by the cave entrance. It looked more sinister than a giant, all dark and unfazed. Many people speculated what it could be, with some thinking it was a real giant living there. However, others dismissed it as a fake because the video was blurry. Also, why are such videos always hard to see clearly? Since there wasn't enough good evidence, this sighting just added to the mystery of the cave giants.
He had to have been either it was the product, this giant was the product of genetic engineering, or there's a race of giants, living giants, still inhabiting planet Earth. And I think that both of those scenarios are possible, but I tend to believe there is a race of giants still inhabiting planet Earth, 10 to 12, perhaps even up to 15-foot tall guys, and that they're extraordinary beings, and that they actually match the descriptions of the giants that were discovered in the mounds of America. These guys exist still in the world. I just want to reaffirm, I absolutely believe that the Kandahar giant story is true and has never been debunked, by the way.
I can fully believe that the story is real. I remember when I first heard the story, can't remember if I heard LA's version or yours first, but the first thing I sort of thought about is because, I mean, I've served in Afghanistan, and obviously guys come home with stories, but it's not a story that guys would just, I can't imagine that they're just going to come home with a story and say, oh yeah, we had a firefight with a giant. You know, guys come home and say we were in firefights, you know, and we were surrounded with 60 fighters when they were surrounded by 30. Do you know what I mean? But they don't come home telling
right.
people they've been shooting a giant. And not only that, I had another guest on here. I don't know if you know him, Dr. Michael Lake. He was ex-US Army intelligence, and he told me that when the invasion of Iraq occurred, that the US, one of the things that they recovered was the body of Gilgamesh.
Yes, I've heard that. Yes.
Yeah, and he was. I mean, he's ex-Army intelligence anyway, but he was told that by a former student who's currently serving, and they'd also located a Stargate in Baghdad.
In Baghdad, that's right. I heard that they recovered the body in Baghdad. Tom Horn. We actually feature that story also. We feature that story also in that documentary series. I believe that's the last in episode 3. But Tom Horn told a story about how he had received images that he was able to view on his computer of that operation, recovering the body of Gilgamesh or of some other giant, and he actually saw the photographs of military personnel, government personnel carrying out a large sarcophagus out of the museum and loading it onto whatever they were loading it onto at the time. I don't know if they were loading it onto a helicopter or a Humvee or something. And shortly thereafter, Tom's house burned to the ground. He tells that story. He's told that story multiple times, but he tells it in our documentary series. So I do believe that there were the remains of giants still preserved in Iraq and in Afghanistan. It would not surprise me if part of the operation, if part of that war was to recover those artifacts. I wouldn't say the primary purpose of the operation, but I would say it as an ancillary to the primary purpose of the operation. We were very interested, and when I say we, I mean elements of the deep state. We're very interested in recovering those artifacts.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, the operation would have had, various facets to it, and that's obviously one that you'd never hear about in the public domain, and it'd just be laughed at. But, like you said, facets of the deep state, absolutely, because one of the things that Michael Lake was saying was that obviously Gilgamesh, they would have wanted to recover that body because they believe that possibly where his remains were, there was sort of maybe some of the black magic rituals that maybe he would have performed, maybe documents or whatever, and they want to get their hands on that sort of stuff.
Or for genetic engineering purposes, to recover those bodies and try and reconstitute some of those particular DNA sequences for whatever reason. There's always been a cult of giants going all the way back to the initiation of the Masonic Lodge.
Thank you.